I just watched Spider-Man Brand New Day, and let me tell you, it is the best Spider-Man movie I've seen. They weren't lying about it. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a Spider-Man Brand New Day review, and then I'm gonna spoil the entire movie. Yes, I will. So don't forget to subscribe, and let's get started. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my review. So I love this movie, as I said. Now, before this, my favorite Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man movie was No Way Home, obviously. Now, after watching this movie, what are my thoughts? Is it better than No Way Home, or is it not? Now, I gave this movie a 4.5 stars. I loved it very, very much. Is it better than No Way Home? The thing is, Brand New Day and No Way Home are totally like different films. Brand New Day is very like sad. It talks about solitude. It's deeper than, you know, No Way Home. No Way Home was more like exciting, you know, because we got to see the 3 Spider-Mans. And I feel like if that aspect was not in that movie, like the 3 Spider-Man thing, I don't think it would be as entertaining. The thing is, they did not allow us to take videos or photos, and I sneaked one photo, only one. Yeah, I was planning on like filming like the most of, you know, the movie, but oh well. Now, I prefer Brand New Day just by a little bit, just a teensy bit. This is No Way Home, this is Brand New Day. Yeah, and now let's get on to the spoiler review. So if you don't want to hear anything, or maybe you want to hear this after you watch, or you just want to hear it, well, this is the spoiler review. I'm going to basically telling you what happened in the whole entire film. So we open up by seeing Peter Parker making his suit from scratch, just like all the other Spider-Mans, and we see him alone and struggling to connect with people. He even ignored, you know, his neighbor. He's fighting crime. Everybody loves him. He works with this lady and who works in the Department of Damage. So yeah, everything's going great. Until one day he was on one of his missions. People started getting possessed, and someone even tried to possess him, but he did not allow that to happen. He was trying to find out who is causing this possessions, who's trying to possess him and other people, because it's damaging, right? Like, we see Scorpion went to prison, is, you know, doing good. Maybe he's gonna come out someday, but then guess who? Jean Grey, played by no other than Sadie Sink. Are we surprised? No, we're not. Obviously, the day they, you know, said they casted her, I thought she was gonna play Gwen Stacy, but then, you know, when the pictures started coming out, obviously it's Jean Grey. Like, I didn't have any other suspicion. Jean Grey. So yeah, she was controlling everyone and is trying to get into Spider-Man because she's trying to get into the Department of Damage Control, and she thinks, you know, obviously Spider-Man works for them, and she wants to get through him to get, you know, through the department to get something that someone is hiding. And also she thinks that Spider-Man is working with them, so she thinks he's bad, so she's trying to do whatever it takes to get what she wants, which I'll be talking about later on in the video. Then we see Peter Parker go to the convenience store. He always goes there to eat, and then Ned walks and buys, you know, some drinks, and he just stares at him and looks at him. It was so emotional, you guys. And Paula music was playing in the background. Oh my god, it was, and obviously the music in this is so freaking good, and the way it was filmed, amazing. I have nothing to say about those 2 things, right? Okay, going back to that, so he sees his friend and he follows him. You know, he's in the subway, he follows him home into a house party. Obviously we all seen this in the trailer, but obviously MJ is there. They meet up, he introduces himself as, you know, someone else, and then he sees MJ and her boyfriend, you know, kiss, and then he gets angry or sad and goes back home, and he is just working on his thing, and he also starts getting these headaches. Obviously someone's trying to get into his mind. He's trying to figure out, you know, who is controlling him and everything, so he has questions. And who he works for, she sent him to Yelena Belova. Yes, the White Widow. Yelena Belova is in this freaking movie. I did see her in the premiere, and I was like, oh, she's just coming to the premiere. No, she is in the movie. And I'm sure you've seen some photos, you know, of Tom Holland in the pool while she's in that scene and another scene as well. But yeah, she basically, you know, he was talking about, you know, there's this person who's doing this and this and I have all these headaches, like what do you think about it? She said possession, and she said, you know, just to go away, because what he's dealing with is a small potato, while the new Avengers, you know, including her, since she's part of the new Avengers, aka the Thunderbolts, are taking care of big potatoes, which is obviously just she means by bigger business. Back home, and he starts obviously fighting, doing the same thing, and he then wakes up one day all webbed up. Obviously, like, he passed out. He wakes up all webbed up, and he basically finds out that his spiderweb is generating from, you know, his hand, and, you know, like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and they did foreshadow this in No Way Home. His spider webs are coming in from here, and obviously he, you know, there's another crime that he needs to go take care of, so he just puts on his suit and he tries to go, you know, to take care of it, but he notices that he cannot use both of them at the same time. So not the web on his suit or his real, you know, webs. So he needs to use his real webs. So then he goes to his threat, and it is Scorpion, and they also fight, and he's getting all these headaches and his eyes turn black. So it's obviously like not Spider-Man, or like the evil version of Spider-Man, that just like all his anger. That did not end up being Scorpion. It ended up being Scorpion possessed by Jean Grey, and the police saw him like almost kill Scorpion, and they were like, what are you doing? And everyone was like scared, and Peter Parker was like, I need to take care of this, like I can't like control myself. So he goes to Bruce Banner, who is teaching at a university. He's a physics professor. He's wearing like a thing that controls him from turning into the Hulk, and if he doesn't have it, then he can turn into the Hulk. So the one from Endgame. So yeah, so he's wearing that to not turn into that Hulk, and he, just ended up asking these questions. Obviously Banner was like suspicious, why is this dude asking me all these questions? And he said yes, it is possible to make like something so you can basically just like the levels of Spider-Man Peter Parker, Obviously he didn't tell him any of that, but yeah, he obviously, Bruce Banner found out that he wasn't going to that college because he pretended that, to go to that college. So yeah, after a while he started practicing, how to control his webs, and whilst all this is happening, Jean Grey is just possessing everyone. Obviously we meet the Punisher early on in the movie. He's the same. I love Frank Castle is the same. I love the dynamic between the two. Can't say anything, about that. And Frank, there's so many good scenes of Frank, especially towards the end. All I get into then is trying to learn how to use his webs, and he's getting, better at it, especially since he has his like control thing that he made, the one like Bruce Banner has. So he also made one that can work on all superpowers, because the one he made only works like on his. So he also made an extra one so he can use it later on Jean Grey. Found her using a tracker and all of that. So she is possessing everyone, and then she ends up possessing MJ. Now the thing is, Peter Parker goes to her house, MJ's house, to save her, because Jean Grey told him like, I'm gonna go after the people you love, and she showed him like MJ and everything, and he basically tracked her down, went into MJ's apartment and told her like, we need to go. MJ was like, who are you? Like, I don't even know you. What if, like, are you even Spider-Man, or are you just a guy dressed as Spider-Man? Anyway, and she ends up going with him because she senses something. So they go into this like skyscraper, they stand on top, and he basically, like, she tells him like, why am I here? Who's like coming after me? Why are they coming after me? He basically tells her that he doesn't know, someone's after her. Came up to him and she was like, do I know you? You look familiar, and stuff like that. And she, Peter Parker said, yes, I do know you, but I don't want to tell you because I don't want you to get in trouble. And MJ was like, well, I'll remember you. And she lifted up his mask like up till here, very classic Spider-Man, and she kissed him. And then she said, oh my god, I remember you. And then she hugged him and all of that. But she ended up being Jean Grey, controlling MJ, and then she went back off of the skyscraper and she threw herself, and Spider-Man went down and caught her. And when they were showing Zendaya like falling, it was the exact like she was also wearing like a similar outfit. It was definitely a nod to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, MJ, it was the exact scene like when she died. So yeah, that was pretty good. He obviously catched her, then he took her to Frank Castle's house so he can like protect her and everything, and he just worked on, you know, things there to try and get better with his webbing and to just try and catch Jean Grey and put on the tracker. So he went on this, obviously he told MJ, Frank Castle, to stay with MJ. He went on this mission to go, you know, find Jean Grey. They too, and the director or the owner of the company, he, you know, told them, okay, I'll take care of Jean Grey from now. And, you know, Peter Parker asked him, well, like, do you know anything since she possessed him? And he said, yeah, I remember she told me like it named Sarah. Now Sarah is the sister of Jean Grey. We didn't see a flashback of Jean Grey and Sarah and how she transferred her powers into her, and how someone kidnapped her to study her powers. And then later on, Spider-Man also finds out that Jean Grey is actually good, and the director or the owner of the company is bad, and he took Jean Grey to study her just like he did to her sister Sarah, who he ended up killing. Now Jean Grey realizes all of this, still thinks that Spider-Man works for them, by the way. So yeah, so she got trapped there. She was trying to think, you know, who's VMAX, but it was basically just like Vent Hood named VMAX that her sister saw before she died. So that's why she was searching for this VMAX, and so was the other guy. Yeah, so they were basically just experimenting on her, and then Spider-Man comes in and he fights people, but then Jean Grey uses her powers. She cracks the glass because she was sitting like in a glass box. It reminded me a lot of the box in You. But yeah, she was sitting in this box, she cracked it, and she froze everyone, not the whole city, but like a part of the whole city. Now at this point, MJ told Frank Castle, before all this happened, she told Frank Castle to go, you know, follow Spider-Man because he helped him in one of the fights, so go help him. He told her okay, so he went and he's driving it, and then he stops because he sees this wall. Obviously that's Jean Grey's, you know, spell. So he goes up the stairs into like another place very high up, and he takes out like a big gun. I don't know if you would even call that a gun, but very big, you know, weapon, and he wants to shoot, and he has the target on Jean Grey through the building, and he wants to shoot her. Now whilst all this, Spider-Man obviously fights the hand who Jean Grey was controlling, and through all of that he takes his little thingy that, you know, stops him from bringing out the evil version of him, I guess, or the worser version. And he said, you know, I'm not Spider-Man, I'm not Peter Parker, I'm both. And then he started fighting without killing anyone, but also with not letting them get in his way. He then bursts into Jean Grey's room where she's sitting, and he comes up to her, he talks to her, she gets into his head, and basically we see Aunt May and Jean Grey talking to each other. Obviously, if you don't know Jean Grey's backstory, but her mother like left her and her sister at a very young age when she found out they were mutants, and you know, about their power and everything. So she never had a mother, so that conversation was kind of like she was having conversation with her mother, basically just comforting her and everything. But then we see that Tom Holland, or Spider-Man, was actually like controlling her. So yeah, that's how he got all of that. Then Spider-Man comes out and he sits next to her. This is all in their head, by the way. And he tells her that, you know, you don't have to be alone. No one can survive being alone, and I'm here with you. And then he hears something, and it's Frank Castle, you know, shooting his gun, and then they come out of, you know, their memory or whatever, their headspace that they were in, and Spider-Man jumps in front of Jean Grey to protect her because he was going to shoot her. And then Spider-Man gets shot, he's bleeding, he falls to the ground, and Jean Grey is like crying and telling him to get up, like you can't die, like not when you know you're here to be, you know, for me and stuff like that. And then I'll say Frank Castle realized what he's done, and they show this whole montage of like Spider-Man, people already like starting to grieve because he was, you know, in hospital under critical conditions. We then see Jean Grey leave, or at least that's what Frank Castle told to Peter Parker. And she was basically like giving power to Peter Parker so he can come back. Well, he wasn't dead, he was like severely injured. So he woke up, Peter Parker woke up, he saw a lot of like drawings, one that MJ did of him and Ned. And yeah, Frank Castle was sitting in the chair and he started crying because obviously he almost killed this boy who was like almost like his son. And if we know anything about Frank Castle's past, we know that obviously his daughter and his wife got killed and stuff. So yeah, and they basically were talking, very, very sweet. And then he tells him like, you're my best friend and you're like the only friend I ever had. Frank Castle tells this to Peter Parker, and I was like, what? What about Daredevil? Like, aren't you guys friends? Yeah, anyways. But yeah, that was very sweet. And then he, obviously people are like standing outside of his hospital waiting, you know, holding signs, wearing his outfit and everything. And then Frank Castle, obviously no one knows his identity other than MJ, Frank Castle, and Jean Grey. And Bruce Banner as well. Oh, also Bruce Banner, when he was in the office trying to find Jean Grey, obviously Jean Grey was like controlling Bruce, and then he turned into Hulk from Endgame, that type of Hulk, and then he turned into like his original form. And then there was this like chase scene between him and Spider-Man, and it reminded me so much of the chase scene with Natasha in the Avengers. So a lot of like scenes that I feel like they recreated them from the other movies. Spider-Man tells him, well, I want to, you know, get out of here, and Frank Castle said, okay, I have a plan. So Spider-Man just comes out of the door and everyone starts shouting, you know, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. And obviously Peter Parker's not wearing any outfit, he's just, you know, Peter Parker, and everyone's looking to the left up at his window, and there's Frank Castle wearing his Spider-Man suit, or just the mask and the hands. So that was very fun. So obviously Peter Parker is just looking around and seeing that, oh, he's actually not alone, and a lot of people are there for him. Also throughout the movie we see him go to Aunt May's grave, and towards the end of the movie he does, and he basically says like this goodbye. Because a lot of what he was feeling was coming from Aunt May's grief and how he couldn't save her and stuff like that. So you end up showing this montage of the three of them, obviously MJ, Ned, and Spider-Man. Throughout the whole entire movie, actually, they also showed the montage of Aunt May dying and the last goodbyes in No Way Home. So yeah, that's the whole movie. And then in the end, the post-credits scene, there was this little tracker that Ned made, and basically tracks where Spider-Man is, and he's in space, so obviously setting up for Doomsday. Here's the whole entire movie. I loved it. Comment down below if you loved it as well, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!